raises that get done as quickly as it did.
Yeah.
So,
All right, I've got 5 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order today, Monday, February 5th, 2024. Roll call, we have Selectman Howdy Goodwin, Eric Eaton, Kevin Buck, myself, Jamie Thurlow, Town Manager Jesse Dunbar, and Town Clerk Sarah Abbott. Mackenzie called and said she is not going to make it this evening.
I'll make a motion to excuse Mackenzie Jewett from tonight's meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Mackenzie from tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Adoption of agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change on the agenda? Okay. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from Tuesday, January 16th.
I motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 16th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 16th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Approval of warrants. We have warrant number 65 for $923, 66 for $16,181.10, 67 for $229,091.76, 68 $2,834.06, 69 for $15,223.91, and 70 for $30,575.40.
Make a motion to approve warrants 65 through 70.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve warrants 65 through 70. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Now we have regular business. First thing we have is fiscal year 25 budget prep. And we'll start out with the Bass Harbor Library. Is there anyone from the library that would like to speak?
There are 3 of us here. We're happy to answer questions.
Okay. Thanks. Jesse, anything you want to note on there?
No, nothing specifically. At the bottom, you can see the
Yep.
total budget requests that would go on the warrant would be $94,117.20, up just over 15,000 from previous year.
Biggest thing, I guess, is just gonna be payroll. That's- Seems to be.
Just what's the increase in special programs?
That would be for our art camp.
For what, art camp?
Yeah, for
Okay.
art camp. This is a program that for many years, the instructors were paid $500 flat, and bought materials out of their own pockets. So to include the enrichment, and we've got Kathy Prager who teaches that. So it's really for the enrichment of the program and outreach to the community.
Yeah, there are 2 directors now, we co-direct, and we estimated that we spent about 50 hours. And we were just getting paid for the time that the children were actually there. And, we hope to write grants in the future, but at the advice of our board chair, she said, put it in case we are denied.
Okay, thanks.
There's also other programming, where sometimes there's guest speakers who have to travel, halfway across the state to be here. So we wanna be able to compensate them and, give them some kind of honorarium. And that's any time throughout the year.
Thanks.
You guys have any questions? No?
What was the big change in payroll? Just,
Well, we hired a new director.
New
And
director.
yeah, we brought on some part-time staff, and this is all again part of our effort to bring ourselves up to Maine State Library standards and expand our services to the community.
okay.
And there's, one more day of open hours.
Right, and we've increased our own.
Alright, thank you.
I make a motion to tentatively accept the budget request of the Library Board of Trustees for $94,117.20.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to tentatively accept the budget request of the Library Board of Trustees for the amount of $94,117.20. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Library trustees, thank you.
Very much.
Right, next we have the fire department. You guys have anything to add before we flip through it there? Yep. Roughly how much is this up from last year?
6,000.
6,000. 4%. I had it on there before, I had it written down. Oh, yes, I got it. Yeah, I think 6,000 is pretty minor. And you are still using Southwest Harbor for dispatch.
Yeah,
Yep. I wasn't sure. That you mentioned.
yeah, we signed a contract, or we're through a contract.
Mhm.
A motion to tentatively accept the budget request of the Tremont Volunteer Fire Department for $144,060.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to tentatively accept the budget request of the Tremont Volunteer Fire Department for $144,000, $144,060. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, next we have, the FY '25 budget prep for the school.
I don't know if we wanna, Jesse, do we wanna, Mike is on his way.
Yep.
I don't know.
You wanna,
Okay, we'll go down through, we'll just hold that one off.
At about 10
We'll
minutes
skip
at
to the
5,
next
he
one.
said he was
Yep.
leaving Bar Harbor, so we should be here shortly.
All right, we will go next to the Sustainability Committee bylaws. Jesse, would you like to explain that?
yes, so there's been a request, from the Sustainability Committee to, add additional, at least one, but possibly 2 additional members to their committee. There's been a lot of interest in the committee in the last couple months, and they, would like to have an additional member who's, been attending, serve on the committee, as well as if any others are interested. So I recommended they could look at increasing the members from what's currently 5 to 7. Gives a little bit of flexibility, if there's any more interest in the committee, and a little more flexibility with quorums, getting it going. So, there's just a proposal to, amend that bylaws. There's a couple changes in there, just to, where it references the numbers, so that they work with the new numbers, you'll see, 426, for Tremont residents, still one select board member. And a quorum.
Do you think you should try to get someone from any other particular group, or just like someone from the planning board, or that would be too much of a?
Yeah, I don't think we need to
Okay.
specify.
Yep. Sounds good. I don't see any issue with it.
I'm by me.
Make a motion to adopt and sign the February 5, 2024 version of the Sustainability Committee bylaws.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt and sign the February 5th, 2024 version of the Sustainability Committee bylaws. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, next we have the Bernard Town Dock.
So I would just wanted to take this opportunity at this meeting to give you an update on the progress of the dock, as well as where we are with FEMA and the cost of repairs for the dock. The repairs are largely complete. Eric can fill you in details on what might be remaining in a minute. But FEMA has been out to the site. They came out and met with me here, went over all of the damages and all the estimates and possible estimates. And then we went down to the site at the wharf and as well as Locust Point, so they could look at it and take pictures. Repairs were largely complete at their site visit as well. This initial visit is to complete the Hancock County's preliminary damage assessment for the state to send in to the president for funding. So now that that's complete, we'll go to Washington, and then once it's approved in 2 to 4 weeks, then the process will begin of formally filling out more applications and paperwork and submitting invoices and bills to FEMA for them to review. So, as a reminder, the insurance company did send us their official denial letter to provide to FEMA, which they were happy to have already. They met with us. And so the repairs, while we're hoping they'll be reimbursed by FEMA, in the meantime, they'll come out of the wharf fund until reimbursement is made. So right now, the estimated total for the wharf is just over 71,000. At the time I typed this, 35,000 was completed. So moving forward, since we're unsure of reimbursement, I want to have the select board make an official motion to waive the purchasing policy due to the emergency status of repairing it and authorize the work with the Seabridge Marine.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just add, the initial bill includes all the materials too, even the materials that aren't here yet, so all the lumber for the cross bracing and whatnot. And I don't think we'll be at the 71, so I think we'll be lower than that. So. And those materials should be here this week.
Well, I really don't think there's much choice doing that if we want to get it back into service.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
definitely think we should waive the policy rather than have had any thoughts about putting it out to bid. So, make a motion to waive the purchasing policy due to emergency circumstances, including severe damage, and to authorize the town manager to accept a proposal for Bernard Wharf repair work from Seabridge Marine.
I'll recuse myself.
Second.
It's It's been moved and seconded to waive the purchasing policy due to emergency circumstances, including severe damage, and to authorize the town manager to accept the proposal for the Bernard Wharf repair work from Seabridge Marine. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Now, Mike's not here. Next we'll do town office closure.
So this year, there's, as I'm sure you're all aware, a presidential primary election on March 5th. As we have done with some of our past elections, just requesting that the clerk's office be closed, so the clerk can adequately staff the election. We'll still be here doing all the other code enforcement, manager, bookkeeper tasks for the day.
I motion to authorize the town manager to close the business lobby of the town office on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, due to staffing the election.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the town manager to close the business lobby of the town office on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, due to the staffing of the election. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, town manager's report. We'll get that done with them.
Over the last couple of weeks, I worked on minutes for the League of Towns, drafted the Harbor Committee financial report, attended the League of Towns meeting. I attended the vulnerability assessment presentation from the Gulf Maine Research Institute at the library. I attended a coastal resilience workshop in Northeast Harbor. Attended the Harbor Committee meeting, did this FEMA site visit here and at the wharf, and then spent quite a bit of time on the FEMA report, meeting prep for this meeting, and attended a couple Zoom meetings from the state regarding the storm. Office staff, clerk was busy with Board of Selectmen minutes, BNB reports, election organization. She attended the annual AOS budget meeting at the high school, election training class on Zoom, lien discharges, and attended the Democrat caucus that was here Saturday. Public Works was busy plowing and sanding, changing plow steel on trucks 3 and 9, mixing up salt sand, cleaned up the sand shed, worked on the John Deere hydraulic lines and battery box repair, worked on the plow lights on truck 9, washing trucks and equipment, greased the sander on truck 3, repaired the vibrator on truck 9 sander, cleaned the trucks, 2 more loads of salt delivered, changed the wing steel on truck 2, filled the resident sand buckets, cleaned the sidewalks, picked up Fuller Flex for the plows in Bangor, helped the harbor master search for the ram that washed off the Gotts, and changed the plow steel on truck 2. The harbor master took care of more traps at the wharf, got some salt at the garage for the wharf, replaced the cleat on the float, attended the harbor committee meeting, wharf repairs, and has kind of been working with Eric on the wharf repairs, braided some spare hooks for the hoist, snow cleanup, opened up half the wharf after the construction, waiting for a quote from an electrician on outlets that were damaged during the storm. Processed some permits, took the boat out to Dots to look for the ramp. We did locate the ramp, it was in the pool, it needs to be recovered.
That's good.
Yeah.
Not another ramp.
Put in 120 new screws in the decking of the wharf. The float by the ramp was broken, he's working on repairs for that. Wired up some new remotes for the hoist and put together a new office chair. Over the next few weeks, I'll continue the FY25 budget.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I'll just finish the next couple of suggestions for the next meeting. Date for the next meeting?
I motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the town office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, 5 PM at the town office. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, now we will backtrack and get our last thing, which is the budget prep for the school budget. Who wants to break the bad news?
I have my head on straight.
I'm gonna quickly just say, I think that we should think about that differently. And I know
Okay.
that these numbers don't, there's really good things that happen at that school, and our enrollment keeps going up. And so, a lot of what you're seeing here is a reflection of people who are like working 2 jobs as one person a lot of times, and trying to repair that, but also the fact that, our school is growing, and that isn't a bad thing. It creates some problems for us to solve, but, we have top of the line educators over there who are ridiculously well educated and good at what they do. So I'm super proud of them, and I know that this doesn't look awesome, but that is an amazing school over there. And there's a lot for us to be super proud of as a community. So now I'm gonna stop talking and let my boss take over.
So I guess you all have the, well, good evening, everybody, it's good to see you all. You'll have the fiscal year 2025 fact sheet, and I'll sort of work from there. And then there might be some questions that I might ask Jamie to sort of talk about some of the things that are within the fact sheet. And I'm using this fact sheet within all of, not only at the AOS level, but through all of the schools in the community, because number one, I think it provides a sort of a level playing field for all of us to sort of understand the budget. So it's broken up in terms of the revenues that we receive as schools, and then all of the cost centers are laid out not only to help the board members who are on multiple boards, whether that's the community board or the high school board or the AOS board, and as the budgets are laid out, the same for them, that helps them understand. And then when we go to our various select boards and councils, that they have a better understanding of the budget when it's organized in a way that's going to be shared with the community at town meeting. I think it's important as a region that we sort of follow a process that's a little bit easier to understand. So I hope that, you know, by starting the book here, and then we can go into the weeds if we need to. But I think that overall view is really important, and then having something that we all can look at that's similar is important. So to start, we'll do with the revenues on the top, and there are really sort of 3 areas of revenue for the town of Tremont that they receive for educating students. One of those is carryover, so that's the money that's in the budget that has not been expended, and that money is used to sort of take the burden off of taxpayers. So, so if there's changes in plans for folks in their insurance policies, if we had a teacher who retires and had been at the school for years and they were at a higher level, and then you bring someone new, then you have some funds left over. And so your carryover is sort of built from all of those experiences within a budget, and that helps support the overall budget. Then you have your state subsidy, and that's something we don't have a lot of control over. And for minimal receiving schools, like most of the state of Maine, particularly along the coast, that means a lot of the burden is on the taxpayers for supporting local education. And we do receive the 50% for special education, but there's a lag time in terms of the support that we get from the state of Maine on that. And so we might have a spike in special ed costs this year, but we won't see that money for a couple of years down the road. But the state has slowly been increasing those amounts. And then that final piece for us is town appropriation for the town of Tremont, and that's where the taxpayers support the K-12 education of the students within their town. And so in that area, in terms of carryover, we have proposing, almost $300,000 going into the new budget year, which is a little less than last year, and part of that is due to, some of those the carryover can be affected by a variety of factors. It can go up and it can go down. And some of that is the additions of having to take over payments from COVID years in terms of some of the funds that we received, and to cover some positions that were added through those ESSER grants and things like that that are supporting the kids. However, that's balanced out that we are receiving more money from our state subsidies. So we did see $60,000 increase there. And I think our original budget, we had budgeted less, Nancy, and then the subsidy came in, and for most of our schools in the district, we saw an increase, some saw a little bit lower, but overall, we've seen an increase in subsidy from the state, so that's a positive. And then I'll just put a plug in because there's people around the table. As part of that state subsidy, there's also the free and reduced lunch piece of that, and we are still asking families to fill out the free and reduced lunch forms. And even though lunch is now and breakfast is free for everybody, those forms also sort of identify the socioeconomic needs for the community. And it would be great if the state picked some other formula to do that, but they're not right now. And so having those forms, everybody filling them out, and maybe we need to change the name of them for ourselves, but they come from the federal government, so I don't think we can. But those help drive needs for Title I funding, for E-rate funding. There's a lot of grants that come from the ability to show what the socioeconomic status is within a town. And so when people get those, and we continue to try to sort of push, make sure you fill those out, even if you think you're not gonna, be in a category where the state might identify you for free and reduced lunch. The more people that fill it out, the more chances are that we may find that we can get some more funds through the socioeconomic side and not just the side for special education. And so that's just, if people ask you and you hear them in the store saying, why do I have to fill it out? Because it supports the town and it supports all other grants other than free and reduced lunch. So just a little plug.
It's really hard to get them, though. We don't get nearly as many back as we would like, so that affects directly what we get from the state.
From the state. So the more we keep trying on our letter, we point that out, and just the more people know how important it is to fill that out until the state changes how they might take a look at that number. That's what we're stuck with. So I'll begin with regular instruction. So that first large cost center, which is all of the K-8 classroom and specials, salaries and benefits. So you could see that there's a 14% increase within that cost center. And that is driven by the increase in a new teaching position, MTSS teachers, so multi-tiered systems of supports, the salaries and benefit increases, and then Jandria's put in some funds for classroom furniture. And that MTSS position, one of the things I wanted to talk about is I think Tremont has a 28% special ed population of the total population, and Pender Macon, the Commissioner of Education, sort of talked about the ranges within Maine, which are high comparatively across the nation, anywhere between 20 and then sometimes 30%. And Tremont's on the upper end of those. And so the addition of that MTSS teaching position is to find ways to support students early on to ensure that they're getting the support that they need for their academics and behavioral support, so that they're not going into special education. And I think from being principal for a day or two at Tremont earlier this year, with Jandria having to be in and recognizing that some of those folks, the special education teachers, are taking time to support some regular ed students who are really struggling, which means they're taking away their time from the students who need that specialized instruction. And so the addition of that position is to help support the kids and then also to support the staff. So we can start to maybe whittle down those needs and catch students early. I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of that.
I think,
area.
sure, I can talk about this stuff all day. But I will. So that is a position that is not singularly at Tremont. This is a position that other schools have had. And over the last few years, I've continued to wonder, like, what is it that is going on at Tremont that is making this feel like we cannot get our heads above water? And what I've continued to hear from people across the district who work in multiple schools is Tremont is doing the same work with fewer people. And I've heard that enough now so that that's exactly what it is our teachers, to quote a person that was in the building the other day, Tremont teachers are working 150%. And it is no joke. Like, I would invite any one of you to come spend a day over there. I mean that wholeheartedly. It is brilliant work, but it is not allowing people to do the jobs that they are assigned to do and do them as well as they should, because they are working. In some situations, our literacy interventionist, for example, is a full-time literacy interventionist. She's also our MTSS coordinator, which in several of our other schools is a full-time position unto itself. And so in multiple situations, we are asking people to do the work of 2 people in other buildings. And I can only tell you that when we start the year out understaffed by about 5 to 6 people, and you're already doing the work of 2 people, that is not even close to sustainable. Thankfully, by November, we tend to find the people that we need. But we are, Tremont, and I can't speak for other schools, but we are significantly hit by the challenges of competing with seasonal work. And so September, October, November for us are very challenging. And so that position is a position that, with the addition of pre-K, which we just heard that is CDS services are being transferred to school systems. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, if that's worth talking about. But that by 2026. And so with our addition of pre-K in our building, the idea of pre-K is not to bring kindergarten down a grade level. The idea of pre-K is to level the playing field and to get all kids so that they are prepared for the learning that's expected to happen by the time they're 6 or 7 years old, and for them to have a solid foundation before we get them to that point where they have to do some really hard work. And so if we can identify interventions early on for kids and get them speech therapy when they need it, or if their sensory needs are not integrated the way that they should be, or their reflexes aren't integrated the way that they need to be, then it makes learning incredibly difficult later on. And the sooner we can catch that, then the more likely we are to be able to avoid the root of special education for children. So that's the point of that position, is to be able to look directly at student data, but also work with kids who are identified early on as needing something more than classroom instruction, but not to the level of special education, in hopes that we don't ever have to go that route for kids.
The other piece, and then when we go to special education, I can talk a little bit about pre-K changes and case management, shifting from CDS to local schools. I think Jandria sort of talked about the fact that the population of Tremont has increased, and since 2013, you have increased by 24 students. So that's almost two
class
It's
sizes.
almost like 2 class sizes coming through over 10 years. So that's sort of important to sort of keep in mind as we take a look at the experience kids are having at the Tremont School as they get prepared for going to the high school. So special education, that difference is about 175,000, but a 17% increase. There's the addition of an ed tech and a special education administrative assistant. The ed tech is, all the ed techs that are in the budget are driven by students' plans and their IEPs. And so those are things that are mandated that the school needs to do to make sure that those students are accessing the curriculum. The addition of the administrative assistant was an idea to sort of support the special education teachers that you have. And right now those teachers not only case manage the caseloads of their students, meaning they write the plans for those students, they organize the meetings, and then they have to do a lot of clerical work to set up meetings, to make sure notices go to families, and to make sure that everything is in, their files are in order, so that when the state comes and looks at us, that everything is in order, that we're meeting all federal requirements. And so you have these highly educated folks who are tasked with helping the most struggling students doing clerical stuff and supporting those teachers. So the addition of the admin assistant for special education is really there to support the special education teachers so they can do their jobs. And what we see in our schools that have that support, we see that the special education teachers are able to do a better job and a more focused job on the students that they have. It sort of frees them up to be able to spend more time with the kids in the teaching and learning.
Can I
And
add
also-
to that?
Yes.
So the other thing I would say about that is that our special education teachers over the last 2 years have been submitting a significant amount of extra hours because of the amount of time that they are having to put in outside of the school day, because their planning time is if there is a child in crisis, they are the first ones to get called, and that certainly has increased, and so we are spending additional funds outside of the regular school day, because a lot of the work that they should be doing is having to happen. I mean, you'll see their cars there till 7 o'clock at night easily most nights. So that position helps to lift some of the load off of them, so that the paperwork piece, they don't have to focus on as much, and they can be focused directly on the teaching and learning of students during the day.
Were you guys able to fill all the additional ed tech openings last year?
Last year we were, and we are, at this point right now, we are filled with our special education positions. However, we just received notification that after February, we are expecting 2 more students, one of whom has another plan coming in that requires another adult. So that's the additional ed tech right there, is that we're gonna have to hire it this year, and it's gonna have to, if we expend our special education budget this year, then we're going to have to tap into reserve to finish paying for that from this year. But moving into next year, we have to anticipate that there will be the need for that going into this year. But we are just right now hiring our math interventionist. That position has been open all year, which also pays into some of the carryover as when we have open positions.
Right.
That money isn't getting spent out the same way. But we are just hiring that. Today was actually their first day. And it is mid to late November before we have everybody hired into most of our support staff positions. This was the first year that we've struggled to fill a teaching position.
And then the other part of that cost center is moving speech pathologists from 80% to 100%. And there's definitely the need there based on the population of students to make sure that they get their services. In other instruction, co-curricular and summer school, there's an increase there. Part of that is the Quebec trip that happens every year, and every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
See,
We
that's
just-
why you're here, to make sure I say it right.
We just started to do that again after COVID, and as is the case for everything, everything is more expensive. So that trip is one that we used to do. We used to do it every 2 years. Last year we did it for the first time. We also have such a big class in our 5th and 6th grade, 3 classes that are approximately 20 kids each right now. And our 5th and 6th grade, to try to bring 40 kids at the same time to Quebec City is,
Put them on a bus and send them.
are you volunteering to chaperone that? Yeah, you come right along here. So anyway, for that group, we're dividing them into 2 groups, and we'll end up going 2 years back to back because it is such a large group of students that to take all 40 of them, we would have to take like half the staff with us to chaperone that well. And so we're dividing them up. But in general, the bus that we usually end up taking up there, like the costs for that have become nuts. And there is, there's fundraising that they do and stuff to offset this cost too. So the Breakfast with Santa is a fundraiser that we do that helps to benefit the Quebec trip as well. But the costs in general just for the Quebec trip are up because that's the way the world works right now.
And then summer school, there was an increase of 5,000 there. I think the Quebec trip was 3 and summer school was 5. And we have moved to district-wide summer school model, and that model actually has increased the number of days and the amount of time that's available for students to go to summer school, and has been quite successful, and this will be the last year that will be in Trenton. We like to sort of rotate the different schools that will have the summer school, but that experience for students is much fuller, much richer, and I think over the last 2 years it's been K-5, and we're expanding to include middle school students so that they have an option to attend to make sure that their skills are ready. And it's been a super successful program, and so just the idea of being able to do that together and provide students more time in the classroom and being super engaging is, I think, has been a good thing over the last couple of years. In students and staff support, the biggest increases there at 16% is mostly to AOS, and I'll share a little bit about that around, specifically around technology. We are absorbing a technology person that we've had in the district that was working in all of our schools supporting the technology teachers. There are some ESSER funds with the amount of technology that is in our schools. There's definitely a need to make sure that those devices are supported and the networks are supported. So part of the increase is there. The lion's share of the increase is around the AOS software. That is specifically around the need for, why did my brain go blank, security, for network security, and hiring a company to support our schools. About a month or two ago, I think almost weekly or monthly, we're hearing about either government entities that are getting hacked into as people are phishing for people's identities, looking for birth dates, looking for social security numbers or names. The DOE has been hacked, multiple times, and so it's sort of the changes that are happening in technology. It's really important to make sure that you have a team of people doing that, and the organization that we hired that's being supported by all the schools. Instead of having one person in the technology office trying to figure this out, there's a team of thoughtful engineers who are taking a look at all of our endpoints, which would be where the traffic comes in, to make sure that they are set, to make sure that they're protecting our students' information and our staff's information. And then also giving us feedback on things that we would need to upgrade. So part of that $20,000 increase that makes up the increase there is supporting that tech support and that security support. Also part of that is a lot of the monies that we use to upgrade our hardware was from what was called phone money, E-rate phone money. And then we were able to use that money to balance. The federal government would support some of the work to get new switches and new Wi-Fi routers in all of the schools, and any upgrades, and that money has gone away. And so we need to replenish that pot, and so we've added that into the budget to support that. And we also added an E-rate contractor, and they help write the grants for us, because often we have missed hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of supporting our networks, and we learned that a lot of school districts utilize sort of this E-rate grant manager to help support. So we get more funds, and they're actually paying for themselves, so we are paying less to support the networks that we have. We are in the digital age, and we want to make sure that it is safe for staff and students. And then system administration, that would be me, in our office, and Nancy. And that's, that formula is based on, the budget, staffing, and student population. And of course, as your student populations, then the share for those towns, goes up a little bit or goes down a little bit, depending on your budget size, student population size, and staff size. And then school administration, the only increase there is just looking at salaries and benefits within the office of the principal. transportation, don't get so excited at that negative 34.8. We have been slowly building up funds to support the purchase of a new bus as we go through that cycle. And so we're in that cycle, and we have a bus coming in June or July. And that bus is replacing the handicap bus, so it has that one. And we're still looking, we did apply again for an electric bus, which would potentially help us for the next cycle. And so if we can take a break on some of that and do some savings by getting the electric bus, we've had great success at the high school. And Tremont is going through their first year. The high school has 2 of the electric buses.
Tremont's been denied twice, so.
I don't understand why.
We do not know why, but we're trying a third time to try to do another one, but.
And so we have a good experience with them, and hoping that, and that would go to help for some savings, down the road. And then in facilities and maintenance, within that line, so we have the cleaning contract and added the portable as part of that contract. Maintaining repairs within the school, bus garage lights, and then the new portable lease, which is a 5-year lease, is added into that budget. But that is down from last year. And then in terms of other expenditures, that's food service. And so I'll have Nancy talk a little bit about the increase there in supporting that budget. We did receive higher rates coming back from the state in terms of providing the funds for school lunches, which meant that some of our schools had really high balances, but you're only supposed to carry so much, and so there's some money that each of our schools were spending on supporting their school lunch programs, everything from buying new cafeteria tables to, I can't remember how much we got.
I don't remember if it was 4,000 or 6,000.
I think it was some.
We were one of the lesser receivers.
And so we're utilizing those funds and making sure able to make some purchases sort of outside of the budget to support the school lunch program. But I think those reimbursable numbers are coming down.
They are. They were like double what you usually would get reimbursement. I think they're down to 1.5%, 1.5 times or something like that. So, and also you were increasing the number of hours
That's
on
right.
your,
Thank you for that.
on your cooks because of people work and just all the stuff that needs to get done. So that's part of the increase in there too.
We run
And
4 lunch periods right now, and so the additional hours, because that takes up more time in the day, so the additional hours for both our cook and assistant cook, and just increase in meals. We serve almost 100 meals daily just for lunch, and so we've been fortunate to see that we have 2 brilliant people who work in the kitchen, so you should definitely come over and eat lunch someday, because it's ridiculously good. But
I had fried chicken when I was there. It was awesome.
it's they're unbelievable. But anyway, because of that, we've been fortunate to increase the number of students and staff that eat every day too.
And so the total budget is $4,804,301, and as a budget-to-budget increase, that's a 9.23 from last year, and then the town appropriation is 13.75, and that would be an increase of 97.93 per 100,000 for taxes. And then the reserves, we have our maintenance reserve, which is healthy to take care of the potential needs that come up. The bus reserve will be clean as we move into next year, and then you have a pretty healthy special education reserve to be able to manage as unanticipated students arrive, and if we utilize what's in our total budget, you can go into that. And then there's the AOS reserve, which is maxed out at $750,000. But in that agreement, when that was created, schools have to utilize their entire reserve first before you can go into that reserve. But that is sort of a second layer of protection for unanticipated special education costs. Yeah.
I think, the other thing to note is so we have an aging building, which is, we're outgrowing our building based on the needs of the students that we have there. And I know, I hear all the time, but you used to have 200 people in there, but you don't stick kids in rows anymore, you don't pack 30 kids into a classroom, we know that's not how they learn, we know that's not best for them. But we also didn't have full-time nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists, guidance counselors, speech language therapists, mental health therapists. These are all we literally are our social service center at this point. And when a kid can't find a counselor outside of school, we are providing it for them. Or when flu shots, dental cleanings, these things happen in our schools. So I think that's important. But we also took out already out of this, we had $50,000 in there for paving for the main parking lot, which we keep putting off. And we also, our air handler system, so there's one that's part of the community building and then there's one that's part of the rest of the school. And each of those are $75,000. When the repair needs to come due, they no longer make the controls for those anymore. So when one of those fails, it's gonna be $75,000 to replace the panel that services that. So we took out the $150,000 for that because right now we think everything is good and going okay. We have no reason to think that that's gonna fail tomorrow. The paving, we can get by, we can continue to do that. But it's a reality that I would love at some point to be able to show you the slideshow that we've been through with Harriman, the architectural firm, because they have come through and done an evaluation of the building and they kind of break down just what are some of the needs. So anyway, that came out because they are not immediate needs, but they're things that I think it's important that people recognize that at some point we won't be able to just not do it.
Okay. What was the increase in students?
We ended last year at we started this year at 136, I think we had 8, and then we just got a call that we have 3 more that are supposed to start. And of those, if you give me a second to think, the multiple out of those students, several of them came in with IEP and significant special education.
So 11 students
You were
is
at
what it's gonna
120
be for the year.
You were at 122 at
We
the
had
last year.
a family of 3 that left. We started this year at 136.
So
And then
that's,
we had a family of 3 that moved away, and maybe 1 or 2 others, but we have 3 more. We have 1 that just started today and 2 more that we're expecting after vacation.
so 136 is pretty accurate for now?
Yeah, we have, I think we might be at 133 today, but we'll be back there again pretty quickly. So it seems every year we get a couple more and a couple more, and like I said, we have 3 class sizes right now that are bumping up against 20 kids in each one.
But over the past 10 or more years, we've had 30 kids, right?
Yeah.
24.
24.
24 kids over the last
So-
10 years.
It's close to a quarter of the population that we've grown in the last 10 years. And I think the thing to keep in mind too is as we're talking about these building projects, we're not talking about 2 years from now, we're not talking about 5 years from now, we're talking about in 25 years. If you continue to see projected growth, which Tremont is expected to continue to grow, or if the RSU moves forward, if there's any sort of restructuring that does end up happening, then we could be looking at 180 kids there. One of the proposals is pre-K through 5th grade, and if you were to do that with a couple of schools, then you're looking at 180 kids. And there is no way that that building can do that with the needs that we see right now.
Would you save on space if you were just pre-K through 5th, or would
No,
that
you
change?
would, I mean, we would have 50 more kids in that building. There's no way that you still would have to do some sort of renovation or addition to that. There is, I guess there's also, like, depending on the age of kids, there's a size of classroom that you're recommended to have, I guess. The younger the kids, the more space you're supposed to have. And I think several of our classrooms, I think our pre-K and our kindergarten meet with that, and right now our second grade, because they're in what used to be the library, they meet those recommended numbers, but the rest of the classrooms don't. And a class, there's a few classes that I think about that, like, one classroom I'm not gonna move next year into another classroom because they can't fit. So it's, again, like, I truly invite you to come over. I would love for you to see it yourself. It's, the teachers are working magic. And just to try to find a space myself to talk with a student or meet with a family, I have to bounce around all the time, because my office is, I've literally put myself on a cart and I'm starting to, like, make my way around the building on a cart, because my office is required so much that, I don't know. That is the reality of it. We are about to move. Our library right now is in our main lobby, and our teachers do not have a teacher's room right now, because that is the library office. The teacher's room bathroom, or the teacher's, the staff bathroom, is utilized by several students in our SUN program who are on a pretty regimented toileting schedule. So about every 15 or 20 minutes, we have several students who have to go in and utilize the bathroom for potty training purposes, and staff are sharing that with them. So, and yet it's a pretty great place to be. I mean, we continue to hear people say they come over and just say, like, this school is one of the most pleasant, positive places to be. So there's a lot of good that is happening, but it is no joke what the need is right now.
Yes.
Can I just say, because I substitute teach now throughout the district, everything she says is so correct. I'm saying, like, that school shines in every way, and those students and those teachers are really amazing. And I've been in several of the schools on the island, and it stands out.
Who brought tissues?
Did you open the portable yet?
We're hoping that that is a whole story to tell sometime. I've never been through a process like that before to try to get all the permitting in place. Like, it was very challenging. But anyway, we have all of it right now. We have the heat is in place. They were there running lines today for internet and other things that we will need out there. So we're hoping to be able to start moving furniture and stuff out there for the February break, so that we can get things set up. And then we would like to do some sort of a grand opening once we get everything out there.
Grand opening, just stuff some kids in.
Well, we would like to make it feel like it's not ideal that we have to have a portable classroom. And so if we can make it if we can put a positive spin on it, we would like to do that. And so we would like to invite the community in to be able to see the new space. And we have a few spring events that we'll do, like the early childhood festival and whatnot, where we'll utilize that space and pull the community into.
Did it end up being 2 rooms, or is it 1 room?
Nope, no, it did not.
Can't do that.
You can't do that. When we originally were going in the direction of needing portable, at one point during COVID, the state had put in place a waiver that allowed for anything under 2,000 square feet. Schools didn't need to worry about getting a sprinkler system. And then they took that away after a lot of schools had gotten buildings that didn't fall within those parameters anymore. So the one that we had that had 2 went back, and we have one that is under 1,000 square feet, because it is very expensive to put in a sprinkler system. And so this one is less than it's 960 square feet, and so it does not require a sprinkler system. Mm-hmm. It doesn't buy us space is the thing. Is with pre-K there, like the only space that we have at this point will be the main copy that is used.
I just had one question about, I see there was 60,000 more in there for Harriman. Is that additional work that you wanna do, or is that just part of the original contract?
That is part of continuing to move the process forward.
Mhm.
They just got back to me, maybe this morning, actually, with, I don't know if it was because of the holidays or what, but I hadn't heard from them, but, with what they expect, like, the next phase will be. And I think that that would be looking ahead into probably the following year's budget for more of that. But that, I mean, that is a whole nother question and thing for us to think about. We still, like, there are no decisions that have been made, we're still very much in the planning process. We are hoping by the end of this month to have a community forum to invite the community in, to meet with them and to, just collect feedback from the community as well. So that's it's not a done deal, there's no decisions that are made. But if we continue to grow, I mean, I would say even right now, the building is as much at capacity as it possibly could be. And not, I should be careful how I say that, it's not the number of kids in all of the classrooms. It is the amount of need for, we've had some teachers who have had to give up their spaces because we have students for safety reasons who need to be one-on-one with an adult. So the spaces just get, I mean, Mr. Higgins can tell you more, the spaces get chopped up because you need to figure out a way to serve all the kids. Our occupational therapists and physical therapists are doing their work in the hallways by the milk cooler because we don't have a space for them. And they do it happily. This has been like, they deserve so much praise because they just do it with a smile on and they support the kids and they're great. But for a kid who has to have received occupational therapy and you have to do that in the hallway in front of your peers, that's not awesome.
Well, thank you for working so hard. Appreciate it.
You've got one right at home. She's pretty great.
All
Pretty
right.
good. I mean it when I say like the top of the line, like remarkably well-educated, dedicated people. So they're so good.
And if I can add, they are amazing, but we are at risk of losing them if we don't fund the positions that Jandre is asking for. I mean, the morale in the school at the beginning of the year was pretty scary. We had teachers coming to our board meetings, and we had teachers approaching us, you know, through social media, through email, on the street, and saying, we need more help. And so there isn't any fluff in here with the people that Jandre is asking for. These are all really essential positions. Thank you.
Guys have any questions?
I mean, I agree with them. I hear it all the time. You know, just my wife coming home saying how she has to can't do her job because she has to cover other people's jobs, 2 or 3 other jobs, and it's hard for her to even get all her stuff done. And you know, so I'm sure it's across the board, and it has been. So, and I definitely feel the need. It's just, yeah.
I would also offer, like, we are not, so we are no longer one of the smallest elementary school. And we are continuing to see that our population increases, as has our budget. But other schools where the population is declining, budgets are still going up. And so, I just think that that's important to recognize that, like, our school is actually growing and we are not even close to the only school where there is an increase in budget. And I think that's probably like a statewide and a national thing. I know from speaking with other school administrators in other districts, some of the things that I'm hearing in terms of like who they're hiring to do the same work that we have our teachers doing, schools that are hiring CNAs and whatnot to come in with help with the feeding and the toileting and certain things, and our teachers are doing it, and they do it they do it happily. So we really though are, and I can speak for myself that like on a daily basis, I go in and I am not sitting in my office doing administrative work. I am substituting in classrooms. I am in the whatever room with whatever child needs it from any period of time. I'm rolling out maps because we've got kids that need to sleep during the day and they're sleeping behind my table while I'm working with another child on the other side of the table or holding a meeting or, so it really is like everywhere in between. And I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths of the school too, though, is that the mindset has really shifted with the teachers that this is just how education has shifted, in particular after the pandemic, that the roles of the school are all of our roles, that the kids that we work with pre-K through 8th grade are all of our kids. And so instead of us being pretty siloed in terms of like, this is my role, this is what I do, it's, I know there's gonna come a time where I have to step out for some reason, whether it's a family situation or whether it's COVID or whatever it is, I'm gonna have to miss time. So they're right there to support each other. And when it's somebody's time to be out, they step in and just do it. And they teach social studies for the day if they need to, or they're, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because people want to get on to that.
You guys have any more questions? Yep.
No, I guess not.
Gonna have some more bake sales. That's what we need to do.
To your point, I did make a note on here that like we are looking at, there is another round of pre-K expansion grants coming out, so we're looking to try to apply for that. There's a grant coming out, a CLC after school programming grant that we're looking to apply for as well to try to help lift, to try to pilot looking at our early release days that we have built into our schedule, providing after school care at Tremont through a grant. And there's also like a renovation grant that we're looking at, trying to get on a list for maybe them paying attention to us for the need for expansion and remodeling. So I don't know where those will go, but a few of these things I looked through and we've applied to Tremont School Fund grant. So we're trying to source money from other places as much as we can too.
Do you think that the structure of the additional help might last a couple years with our growth, or is that just every year we're gonna hire? Every year we need to hire 5 people, or do you think that we're gonna be okay for a couple of years with growth, or?
I mean, I think that some other schools in our district kind of show that like it can really depend. You can get a student or two that moves in with significant needs, or if there's an out-of-district placement, that is a significant cost. If you have a student that comes in with a need for additional support, we have no choice by law, we have to hire that. And so I really do think that the addition of the MTSS position and the special education administrative assistant, that has come through hours and hours of conversations between myself and Mike and Melissa Beckwith, the head of special services, and trying to nail down like what is it for Tremont that is over the last few years such a struggle that we cannot get people to do what they need to do every day. They're having to do multiple jobs. And that's what we narrowed it down to originally. We were looking at, should it be another special education teacher? And our goal is to be able to build a really healthy system of support for students so that, and to allow teachers, I'm getting cold, I'm starting to shiver, to allow teachers and special education teachers in particular to be able to actually provide the instruction that they need to and limit the interruptions. Right now I can tell you that like almost every day it is a revamp the schedule, who's covering who. Every morning it starts at about 5:30. And we have to figure out coverage in special education every single day, and that was never an issue several years ago, but that is the case now. And so those people get pulled every single day, and those are the kids that need the most support, who then it's an inconsistent day for them. So our goal with these positions is to be able to build in the levels of support that kids need to prevent them from special education, and to be able to prevent classroom teachers and special education teachers from getting pulled so much to do other things so that they can attend to just the instruction piece. As far as additional ed techs, I would like to think that we have all of them because we're running out of space to put people. But if another student moves in and there needs to be another one-on-one, we don't have a choice but to hire that.
Right.
So
Do we have a lot of out of district?
we don't have any out of
I didn't
district.
think so.
I think that's the other thing is that we run, in the last few years, we've created a SUN program, which is students with unique needs. We currently, 5 years ago, we didn't have any students with significant, with a need to be in a SUN program. Right now we have 3, and I think within another year we'll have 4, and those are students, like I said, that, require consistent toileting, help with feeding, help with dressing themselves, are really nonverbal. And so the increased position for speech pathologists is that we have students in our building who do not communicate with anything other than a picture system. And we've gone from having no students with that level of need to multiple. And I don't think that you're going to see that drops back to 0. And that requires sometimes multiple staff for one student, or that requires specific equipment or space for them to be able to have their needs met.
But out-of-district placements are far more expensive.
Yeah, for us to hire an ed tech, or even a teacher for that matter, you could probably double that, and that would be the cost of a placement out of district for one student. So,
Right.
so it, yeah, and the other thing is that, like, you know, we are to the greatest extent possible required by law to provide a free, appropriate public education for every kid that walks through the door. So.
Thank you.
Say, Kevin.
I've said it before, it's the same thing. I guess the biggest, I'm really curious why kids that are non-communicative and all that are actually in the school system. I mean, and I'm getting it's probably because there's no place else for them.
That's right.
Or there's,
I think
but-
you'd be really surprised too. Again, I would invite you to come in anytime, because I think you'd be so
I'd like
surprised
to.
To see the growth that is made. It's really remarkable with appropriate programming, the developmental milestones that kids can make for, and even just the interactions with peers. And I don't mean just for the students with such significant needs, but for everybody else in the school community. Yeah, it's.
so they do actually make progress. I mean, this is,
100%.
okay.
100%.
That's what I was
They're
questioning,
members of
I
our
guess is what.
community, and they have, they have a legal and a moral right to be part of education. Like, I mean, gone are the days when we just institutionalize people. That's just not what our society chooses to do anymore.
I'm not questioning that as much as I just wonder.
Are they making I think it's a good question. Are they
They
making
absolutely
progress?
do.
And I-
Yeah.
We work very closely with, we have a BCBA who we work with, his name is Alan Tomasello. We work with him all throughout our district, but, he comes in, observes multiple times a year, meets with the staff, helps to adjust programming, resets goals, and so, yeah, absolutely. And I have to give kudos to Lorena Beal, who stepped in as one of our special education teachers this year and has really lifted our SUN program. And the difference that you can see in independence and whatnot throughout the school is remarkable. So yeah, they do, for sure. It doesn't look the same as everybody else, and, but I would argue that it doesn't look the same for any two kids. They're gonna make growth at different times, no matter who they are. So.
It's just the appropriate amount of resources it takes for them. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be cold-hearted. I'm just trying to, question, I'm glad it's being effective, I guess.
It is, and it supports their families too, so the families are heavily involved and part of those conversations and working with those consultants as well, so that growth can be transferred and continued outside of the school setting too.
I would think the growth would be less by sending them to out-of-district care, just because there's more travel time and, that just takes away from the structure.
I think that programs like that are incredibly hard to staff too, because they're really, really demanding, and so the turnover rate is exceptionally high. And I think if you can get people that are really invested in the work, then the quality of the program is only going to benefit the kids and be stronger, and sets them up to be able to be more functional and participating members of society as they grow. So,
And that takes part young, that they need to be addressed.
yeah, as early
Early.
as possible.
Certainly.
Yeah.
What do you got, Heather?
I think we got to do it.
I agree. You guys?
I mean,
Yep.
we got it laid out.
I know,
Yeah.
I don't question the need for,
Additional
any of the
help.
needs that you're saying. It's just, it's hard to, like for Jesse's point of view, this is a budgeting thing, and $100 per 100,000, what's an average house now? It's hard for me to guess, 300, 400,000, I don't know, so $300 or $400 per household just for this, let alone everything else on the budget, it's.
Just makes it hard because of last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what
believe
makes
me,
it the
I
hardest.
understand. Believe me, I understand.
And I just wanna make sure that people can still afford to live here, or then we'll get into another, then the school will decline, and it's just I know, everything's expensive now.
Yeah, this is still a draft, the board doesn't approve this until at their next meeting, so,
Mhm.
if, as you all have this too, so as you peruse and you have questions,
If there's
definitely.
changes, we can make it.
Yep, so.
I'll get my 2 different color highlighters
Get your
out when I
two
get
highlighters out, so we can-
I don't know if I believe that, Eric. Yeah, I don't think.
Usually you're waiting on medical insurance numbers and all that. You've gotten those at this point in this budget?
No,
Not
we
yet.
won't get those until, we're gonna get the maximum rate by the end of March, and then they said by the, I think, 10th of April, we should get our actual rates, but based on what they've sent us for our usage and the claims, it doesn't look like it's gonna be a low figure. I think whatever their max is, this last time, we were the max, and we probably will be again, because a lot of people, because of COVID, everything got pushed off, and now it's catching up with everybody,
And that's figured into this budget, the max?
well, we always put 10% in the budget, but we don't even know what Anthem's max is gonna be until the end of March. So, we'll know before town meeting what the rates will be, but, I would anticipate it's not gonna be a low figure, probably.
And that 10% has served us well over the last
Mhm.
many years. And there are years where we've been at 0, and times where, I think at town meetings, whether it's here in Tremont or at different communities, that I've been able to sort of give money back depending on what that differential is. But like Nancy said, since COVID, people have been utilizing, that resources because they put off services that they needed, and sort of we're still in that round. People are utilizing, putting in taking care of themselves, which is a good thing. And so we'll probably be like where we were last year. I think the max last year was 6.9.
We were at 6.
6.6.
We were at 6.
We were at 6. So based on what Nancy and I saw in terms of, utilization, we're right around there, so I'm guessing it'll be, well, hopefully it'll be under 10.
Yeah.
And we've been good so far over the last couple of years, but it'll probably be at that max rate. And then what that leftover, that's be more useful for carryover for next year's budget. We'll see what those numbers are, and then we'll be able to make a thoughtful decision about it at that time.
Pretty hard to beat the insurance company.
Alright, does anybody wanna make a motion on that, or?
What do we, this is just a draft, right?
Yes.
And we come back to see you usually one more time. Jesse, do you know when that would be, come back before the board would vote to approve it?
When you cut 500,000 out of the budget?
It can, but I can tell you, like, it'll be positions or something, or
Yeah.
programming, because there isn't, I don't know, there isn't a lot in here. I wish I could say that, like, the teachers said recliners or, gym or something, but they don't. So there really is there isn't padding.
Jesse, you want a motion on this, don't you, so that you can just put it, that's what I thought.
Tentative on it.
Yep.
It's the 4166 on
I make a motion to request the town manager to include $4,166,727 as the Tremont School Fund appropriation in the fiscal year 25 budget.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to request the town manager to include $4,166,727 as the Tremont School Fund appropriation in the FY 25 budget. Is there any discussion?
I hated saying that.
Yeah, that's a big number, isn't it?
It is.
Had to get it out. All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have a growing population and our budget is the lowest in the elementary schools, except for the other islands.
Except for the other islands.
Yes, I know it doesn't feel good. But it is lower than that.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, and I genuinely mean it, I really would love to have you come over. So if you
I
have
heard the
time,
fried chicken
some
was
of you
good.
are there, some of you are there for different events and whatnot, I get to see every once in a while. But we would love to have you come over, have lunch, see the kids, experience, for the day.
I think I need to do that. I don't get in that school very much.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you'll need.
No, you shouldn't.
Depending on if that number changes, once you guys approve it, you approve that number, that changes, and I don't know if you're.
Right. Hey, don't touch my mother.
They still have to, you guys still have to, you haven't adjourned your meeting, right?
We've got an executive session next.
I think people don't know.
Okay. All right. Next, we have an executive session titled Tax Abatement for a Reason of Poverty.
That's all you got.
Okay.
What?
I make a motion to go into executive session due to the requirements of the Main Freedom Access Act. Don't say see the motion spelled out. I make a motion to go into executive session due to the Freedom of Information Access Act to discuss property abatement problems. Discuss it.
Second. Jesse, did you hear? Yep. It's moved and seconded to go into executive session titled Tax Abatement for Reason of Poverty as read by Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Eric? Did you vote?
Okay, bye.
Okay.
That's the line I was looking for.
Yeah.
I knew it was there someplace.
All right, we are out of executive session at 6:43.
I make a motion to deny the tax abatement request for the property at map 5, lot 28H-1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to deny the tax abatement for poverty, for tax property on map 5, lot 28H-1. Does that sound good, Jesse? Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
I got some cash.
Yeah.
$50.
Oh, we did.
That worked.
I appreciate you running over and doing that.